Hey, Brother Wilson. So for my lesson, I'm going to be teaching Charity. I'm going to be teaching her how to brush a dog correctly and how to trim a dog's nails. So sort of like a dog grooming lesson. I hear she really loves animals, so I think this will really appeal to her affective domain and help me use hot cognition that appeal to emotion while I'm teaching. Um, and this will also be really good to develop her cognitive domain because as she's seeing, holding, working with the dog, her sensory register will be working as she's taking on those different senses. Um, for her working memory, there's a lot of toes on a dog, so she'll be able to trim a lot of different toenails. At practice, doing it over and over will really help her working memory. So take what she's sensing and put it into her working memory, and then hopefully from there, I'll be able to teach her well enough that it stays with her long-term memory. I do have a couple of worries. Since I know you don't have a dog right now, and I don't know when you'll be getting another one. If you do, I'm worried that maybe what I teach her will have some kind of decay over time. I'm also a little bit worried that I'll have within myself a failure to retrieve, since this is something I'm super passionate about, I really love, and I tend to have a little bit higher trait anxiety. I'm worried that I won't be able to remember different words, different parts of my lesson, but I love teaching, and so I'll probably be okay. As long as I stay comfortable and keep her comfortable, I think I won't have a problem with that, since I do really love teaching and working with kids. I'll start the lesson out with a little pre-assessment. I'll get to know what skills she already has in her schema. If she has a steady enough hand to work with the nail clippers. If she doesn't, for whatever reason, I'm sure she probably does, it's not a problem. I'll just show her a technique for using the clippers whenever you aren't super steady, whenever you're kind of nervous, and so the dog doesn't get hurt. Next, I'll introduce a prototype of dog anatomy. It's very important to know where defining characteristics of the dog's leg, like where the elbow, the hock, the knee, the stifle, and so on. Where those are, that's also correlation characteristics because it's each joint. There's sort of an overgeneralization probably with her that all legs are like human legs, and it's not true. A dog's anatomy is actually really different. That's a misconception. So for the safety of the dog, that we'll be using with the lesson, and then whatever dog she chooses to practice on later, I'll need to assimilate the correct parts of the dog to her current paradigm. With this, I'll aid her visualization. I'll show her a chart of a picture of the dog where the parts are, but since I know those aren't always the exact same, that can cause a negative transfer. And so I'll also be showing her on the dog as she can look at the chart, and then also on the dog's leg itself, to have a positive transfer. And she won't have any misconceptions then whenever she's working again or working this time. Now that Charity has built up some situational interest, I'll show her how to trim the dog's nails. So after she learns the basic anatomy, which doesn't sound like it's really important, but it is, because whenever you trim the nails, you have to lift up the leg in a certain way, and if you do it, if you hit the wrong joints, or if you move the leg where the joints are supposed to move, it can cause a lot of pain, and that's something we really don't want. So I'll be teaching her to make sure she has the correct skills in her schema and understands the proper way to do things, so that for her safety and for the dog's safety. So the trimming the dog's nails, it will be more for her psychomotor domain, as it's all hands-on. I know at first she'll have some anxiety. I'm hoping for more facilitating anxiety than debilitating anxiety, because I want her to be more excited and like, yeah, let's do this, rather than just being scared off and not wanting to try. I feel this lesson is right for her zone of proximity because she has good self-efficacy and high self-esteem. She's worked with animals before. She probably feels like she knows what she's doing, so I think it won't be too much of a challenge. But at the same time, even though she'll be comfortable with her own self-concept, at the same time, this is something more challenging. I remember when I first did it, it was kind of tricky at first, so I don't think it will be too easy, but at the same time not too difficult. So since she already is kind of comfortable with her self-concept of what she'll be doing and is excited about it, this will help raise up her intrinsic motivation, which is really good because there's not too much external interference, not too much extrinsic motivation for her. I'm not going to be like doing rewards or anything. But she'll be pumped up enough to motivate herself to want to keep going with the lesson. To help keep state anxiety low, I'll help keep her comfortable. We'll stay indoors because the physical climate outside is not very ideal. And so we'll be working in, and that will help her individual physical state. She'll be able to staying warmer and not worrying about the cold, and she won't be thrown into disequilibrium that way. And then also the physical arrangement is important. I'll be like close with her, but I'll like still give her space, because for the safety of Charity, myself, and Bowser, I don't want to get anyone to be too close where they're uncomfortable, because that is a safety issue if people are uncomfortable. Plus, if I keep the physical climate correct, then we can't attribute the cold or the proximity for negative instances. Yeah, to start out with the nail trimming, I will first show Charity how to do it while she just watches me. Me staying calm and her seeing like, this is how it's done, this is a correct prototype, this is how it should look. That will help her raise her self-efficacy, know that she can do it, and kind of what she should be looking for. And also, it's a contagious behavior. So as she sees me calm and doing well, she will therefore also be able to stay calm and do well whenever she tries. And then after I clip, or as I clip, I will be showing her non-examples. So whenever you see a black dot, that usually means that's the quick, but sometimes a black dot is just dirt. So I'll be looking for examples like that where I can show her, okay, this isn't the quick, this is just dirt, and then show her what the quick does look like. So I'll use that non-example so that she, once again, doesn't have any misconceptions. She understands. She doesn't have any overgeneralizations. She understands like each situation's different, and this is what the correct one looks like. And then after I do it myself, I will hold her hand to clip the dog's nails with her. I'll probably just for maybe 1 or 2 nails max, just so that she can get a feel for it, but doesn't get too freaked out, doesn't get too much anxiety, because she will have my hand right there, kind of like showing her this is how it feels. But so that she doesn't execute learned helplessness, I will only do that with 1 or 2 nails for her before I let her do it by herself. It'll be important, though, as she's doing it by herself, even though she'll be doing most of the nails, to pay attention to her cueing so I can accommodate my lesson to her needs. But also scaffold as she needs, pace as she needs. After all, this is all about her learning. With her cueing, I'll see whether I need to use informational or control language, whether I can tell it's just learned helplessness and she needs me to say like, no, you need to do this, or if she's just more nervous and I'll just say like, no, it's okay, you can do this, more emotional language as needed to help her learn the lesson. And then the final part of my lesson will be really easy. It'll just be brushing. There's some misconceptions on how to brush. Some people will do it wrong directions, and sometimes the hair flows certain ways, and you have to brush that certain way. So I'll just be teaching her that. And her whatever state anxiety she still has will be lowered, because that is a much easier, much calmer part of the lesson. That's why I chose to do it last, so that it's not build up to this like crazy hard trimming nails. It's more of a curve. So also with her cognitive development, I think this lesson will be very beneficial. She is about 12, so Piaget says she's about in the formal operations category. And so part of this, she's supposed to be able to express the possible and use language freed from the concrete. So I think I'll be able to integrate that in my lesson with the anatomy part. Since she can't really see what's happening, she'll just kind of have to visualize it. So I think that will be helping her cognitive development. Another part is her hypothetico-deductive reasoning, which is basically you hypothesize something's going to happen and then see like what will actually happen, sort of thing. And I think that will come with the trimming. So as she tries, what you do is you take when you're trimming a nail, you take just a little bit off at a time. Like you can take off larger chunks, but I think as she hypothesizes, okay, maybe there's like this much left, and then there's just a small amount, then she'll be able to reason where the quicks really are without actually hurting the dog, and how far you actually go with that. And this will also be like her testing her own mind of like visualizing that and in her mind, even though you can't actually see it. So that will help with her formal operations, the cognitive development part. Also for social development, this can be autonomy versus dependence. Like I said before, I will be clipping them first and then helping her and then having her do it herself. So this is where she will kind of depend on me for a little bit, but then she's more autonomous. And so that way she's not just dependent, she's still able to do things on her own, and she'll learn how to do it on her own rather than just relying on me. This is also intimacy versus isolation, where I hold her hand and then I don't. So like the intimacy and then backing away, but also being close with the dog, more intimate, instead of, and like me being there helping her too, rather than just being away. So it's like all working together to have it where she's able to mix in those both of those developments. As far as social development, the only moral dilemma that would be in this lesson is that dogs don't always like having their nail trimmed. I did trim a couple of Bowser's nails just the dew claw, just to see how he would handle it. He did really well, so no worries there. But you can tell he didn't really care for it much, as most dogs don't. It's like it's like you have a 3-year-old and you're trying to clip their toenails and they're like kicking you. They don't want to, even though it's better for them. So the moral dilemma would be, do I make the dog uncomfortable for a little bit while I trim the nails, even though it's actually better for the dog in the long run, because overgrown nails can cause health problems and just discomfort. So trying to decide between that, and then also if she happens to quick a nail, hopefully I'll teach her well enough she doesn't. But if it does, that dilemma of, do I continue on? Do I finish the lesson, or am I going to be freaked out now and I don't want to? Or do I want to take this risk of quicking a nail and do it, even though I know that's a risk, or do I just back away? So those would be the moral dilemmas, all of which it's, boils down to, it's fine. It's better for the dog to clip the nails anyway, even though you may not want to, and they may not want you to, even though they actually do. They just don't know they want you to, kind of deal. But just having to face that will help her with her social development. So yeah, I will be teaching Charity on Wednesday the 18th at 5:30. And I'm super excited. I think this will be a really good lesson for her, and I think I can do a really good job teaching it. This is something I really care about, and I look really forward to teaching it. Thanks so much.